Hello, welcome back again to the next in our series on Shillelagh. So far, most of what we've been looking at has been done at range. So if I'm attacking, I'm going to be still quite a long way away from my opponent. And then last week, we started to look at the idea of charging in. So if an attack was coming in, I might be looking to get in against my opponent in some way like this. Or we looked at the charging, the follow-in as well. So if I attack and then swing in, so that I've got this in close. So really, we're going to start looking at some of the things we can do in close today. And particularly, we're going to follow through what is considered to be the kind of ideal format, as it were. If this is the sequence of events that you can make happen, you will win the fight. So this is to give you a kind of feel for that. So the way it starts off with is with our stand-up strike, which we've already talked about doing our follow in to get behind some here. Now, from here, the first thing I want to do as soon as my hand touches the cane here is to slam it forward into my opponent's chest. Because I've only got a fractional amount of time. If he attacks, if I attack in this case, my apologies, in here, I don't have a lot of time before that's returned to his hand and is then coming either into me in some way. I need to get a strike straight in. And that strike is called the hello, because it's normally the first proper strike. We might have been sparring out here for a bit, but we can deflect that quite happily. The hello is going to come when I finally get in here, bang! That's the hello. Yeah? So I'm hoping to hit him solar plexus, sternum, stomach, somewhere that's going to make him and buy me a fraction of time. So that's your hello. The first thing we want to look at, we need to get that strike. And the reason I'm going to go for that one is just I'm there. Yeah? Everything else would take a vast amount of time to actually deliver that strike. So I'm going with the quickest thing possible. Now, once I've got the hello, we continue with this ridiculously affectionate way of referring to how we're going to brutalize them. So after the hello, we do what's called a hug. So we charge in, boom. Yeah, we get the hello. Now they've been nicely trained, so they're going to return to a nice normal guard whilst I've hit them. The hug, I then drop that point down behind their cane and pull my hand back to my hip. And we enter into a nice little hug. So again, in, on, hello, in, and then pull that so my opponent has to step forward and collapse into me. Now you may notice that there is a cane actually striking into his face. There are numerous ways of doing this that in its own self can be offensive. We can also set that up alongside other things. So if I was already at the point of doing the hello, you can grab the cane. As I come in for the hug, I may even be driving my knee up as I'm meeting them. And there's options for stuff we're going to look at next week, so I'm not going to go into them yet. So we have the hello followed by the hug. After that, we have a technique called stirring the cauldron, which I can only assume comes from a desperate attempt to kind of kung fu-ize some of the original naming. But the idea of this is to stir the cauldron is to twist the arms around once I've got that hug. So I'm going to strike, charge in, hello, hug. Now, from this point, if I turn Andrew around so you can see where he's ended up, this hand is going to come up and collect that wrist on the way round. That's going to come up. Now my wrist is pressing against his stick, yeah, and I keep those two together, and even if he doesn't let go of his cane, we end up in this situation, which is great for me and not great for him. If I do that with a certain amount of speed, and I'm going to warn Andrew I'm doing this so I don't wreck his hand, I still get my charge in, my hello, my hug, and then you get the stirring the cauldron, that kind of moving technique. It can be a disarm, it can be a lock, it depends how you use it. I'm going to look at some of that a bit more in the next video. But the idea is that I'm destroying his stance and I'm taking the stick out of play temporarily. Before I move into the very last step, which I'm going to talk about in our last video a little bit more, which is the goodbye. So I start with a strike, a charge in, hello, hug, stir the cauldron, goodbye. And that kind of takes us through our process. I'll show you the full thing once more from the other side. So, strike, chase in, hello, hug, stir the cauldron, Goodbye. That made contact for those of you who can't tell on the video. Not a lot, but a little bit. And that gives us this kind of ideal idea. Once we get in, I want to try and get in some strikes. I want to be looking to control their structure, destroying their ability to actually defend themselves, and then ultimately looking for a finishing move. So that kind of lays out the pattern with those terms. So hopefully that's been kind of useful. We're going to continue to look at what we do in close, really for the last 3 videos that are coming up, and that will take us to the end of this series. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. If nothing else, seeing Andrew getting beaten up a little, it always makes my day better. And we shall catch you next week.